Thank you for your question. I don't think it was disrespectful at all. So I'm about to press go live. Give me a moment, and we'll be live.
Darryl,
Oh,
up to what level of schooling do you have?
we're live, and I have some college.
Some college, okay. I just want to let you know my side since I'm asking you. I dropped out of high school.
Okay.
I haven't even finished high school.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing.
So I really don't hold the schooling in that high of regard.
I got you.
Of course, I do for doctors and stuff like that, but pseudosciences like astronomy, astrology, and all that stuff, it's.
I hear you. You say astronomy and what else?
Astrology,
I got you.
both pseudosciences.
Well, thank you for sharing. So we're live. It looks like this thing it says excellent uh, stream, but I hate the fact that I can't actually see. Um, we're streaming in the what do you call it? The control room. Give me a moment here. I'll try to reload this thing. Give me a moment here. I want to make sure that the video is looking good. Live chat. So I'll put this new one there. Awesome. There's Gently's. So it looks like it's working. Are you able to see the video, Gently's? Does it look okay? Are you able to hear me okay, Montreal?
I can hear you fine. I just see your D.
Oh no, I'm not presenting. But let me
Oh,
just I'll
okay.
just I'll just close my YouTube and load it back up. See if that fixes my control panel. So we're live, man. We're live. Everybody should be able to hear us. What is it that you wanted to present? The test that you were talking about.
Well, remember we're talking about the shadows of the sun and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
the eclipse,
Yeah.
and you suggested that I go outside with a baseball and
Mhm.
use the sun as the actual light,
Mhm.
because I said that an object cannot cast a smaller shadow than itself. Remember that conversation we're having?
Yes, I remember that conversation.
Okay, so you inspired me to go out and actually do that test. I have trouble sending you the video, but if you go on my funny saying this because I have no subscribers. I have one video on. I never planned doing this
Okay.
page, if you want to call it that. And I have one video, and that's the video.
Okay, sounds good. So
I want
this is
your
the
opinion
video of
on it.
your test. So what you could do is you could link it, just link it in the Hangout, and I'll show it to everybody. Thanks for joining, Gentleys. Understand that you're just listening, not watching. At first, I thought you meant that you couldn't see the video, so I closed everything. But now I understand what you mean. But I did click my live chat, fix my live chat though. So awesome one, Alien Coates. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know as well. So I'll make sure I keep on commenting. Awesome. Thank you, man. So go ahead and link that link in the Hangout, and I'll go ahead and stream it for
I can't
everybody.
do it, Daryl.
I
I
keep
can't
forgetting.
do
I'm
it. I
sorry.
told you.
I'm sorry. I keep. I
I'll
just,
do it on another time. I got to get my shit together.
no. Don't worry about it. I could find it. I could find it for you real fast. Let me look here. Can you just make a comment in the chat to help me out to find your name to find your channel? Just make a comment in the live chat. Any comment.
Okay, let me try.
If you can't, that's fine too. I'll still try to search for it.
Did it work?
Awesome. That will help. I could just copy paste your name. Give me a moment here.
Okay.
And I'll search for it on YouTube. And it's your only video, so I see what you were saying, so it'd be easy to find. I guess I'm so used to people
Yeah, yeah.
posting videos. When you were saying that, I was interpreting. He's telling me he has one video and he's going to post it, But really, you were saying you have one video, and that's the only one that you have to worry about finding. So I got you.
Like I told you, I'm a newbie at this.
No problem, no problem. So I put SC Montreal. Let me filter by channel. Yep, I found you. You now have one subscriber, sir. That's me.
Wow, thank
Start
you, sir.
somewhere.
You're my first
Yeah.
subscriber.
Hey, start somewhere. So I found your one video.
I never intended this.
Yeah, I could agree. I'm in the same place. So what I'll do is present this video. I know some people who are watching can't see it. They're watching and working. Thank you for listening, but I will narrate what's going on. So present now, so you should be able to see it momentarily yourself. Present a window. Present June 28. Boom, allow. Boom, so everybody can see it.
That's the one.
Awesome. So this is from SC Montreal, Stationary Montreal, was posted yesterday, June 28th. Backyard shadow observation requested by my online buddy, Darryl Barrett Jr. I appreciate that. So, and the reason why we can't be friends is because we disagree on some things. So I'll maximize it, and here we go. Awesome. So thank you for sharing, sir. So, what is your commentary on that video?
Well, the shadow seemed pretty even to me.
Okay, so you're
It's supposed to get much smaller according to you, correct?
no, I didn't say it should get much smaller in that instance. Uh, unless you could point out where I did. But I did say that the shadow will be smaller because the sun is bigger. That's what I said specifically.
And was it smaller according to what you saw there?
Yes, it was smaller.
Are you serious, Darryl?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Your position is
Because
that it was...
if you take...
Go ahead.
If you take the size of the sun and you compare it to the size of the moon, right?
Okay.
You told me perspective scale last time, and you suggested that I do this experiment.
That's right.
Well, not an experiment, an observation.
Okay, this observation. Okay.
And it clearly shows that the shadow is just about the same size. It doesn't get smaller at all.
Okay. So let me clarify.
Remember, you told me if you take like 5, 6 flashlights and put them in, if you have an intense, it'll show a teeny. Remember you said that?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So I think my my observation proves otherwise.
And let me make sure I'm understanding properly. Are you saying that it was just about the same size, or it stayed the same size? Because I heard you say both of those.
It's really hard to tell. That's why I want your opinion. It's really hard to tell. Like so far, I asked one person, and they said to me, "It looks like about the same size." To me, it looks like about the same size.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you say about the same size, did the size change get bigger or smaller?
I'm not sure. Like I said, it looks the same size to me.
So it's not about the same size to you. It is the same size.
Yeah, look, I know you're gonna nitpick on words, so if I'm not sure of something, I'm gonna say looks about the same size to my eye.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we can take out measurements and try to measure it. I just did a simple video to ask your opinion.
Okay. So yes, my clearly to me the size of the shadow got smaller. Um, um, I wouldn't say that's my opinion. It's just my observation looking at it. So there you go.
Okay. Now, logically speaking, if the moon's radius is about, let's say the width, if I'm not mistaken, is about 2,000 miles. Am I correct on that? Approximately,
Um,
give or take.
yeah, if I remember right, it's about a quarter the size of the Earth, so the radius should be around 1,500, but I'm not sure exactly. I could look it up real fast, but
Okay, we'll go with that number.
okay.
We'll go with that number, 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
So an object, the width of 1,500 miles, casts a shadow of 70 miles on the Earth. I propose this is impossible.
Okay, how is it impossible?
Well, it just isn't. How could it make such a small shadow? Where, according to you, you were laughing at me. You guys were laughing at me last time. I don't understand size. I don't understand the scale. And you suggested me an experiment, a test, an observation. I went and did it, and it seems to comply with me.
Okay, okay. So make sure I'm understanding properly. It's impossible because how can it do so?
No, according to your test, right? A huge light on a small object should cast a small thing.
Okay.
So we did the experiment, and we found out that we did the observation, and we found out this is not true. So I guess the onus goes on you, Darryl.
Okay. Well, this is what I have to
I
say to
did
that.
your test.
This is what I have to say to that. And what I'll do, let me make sure I catch up with these comments first. Then I'll let you know what I say to that.
Sure.
So, scrolling up, guys. Thanks everybody for joining. Oh, I'm actually scrolling a different channel. Hold up one moment here. I'm sorry. I was like, man, a lot of people just joined. I actually clicked the wrong window, and I was seeing like a whole bunch of chats. So okay, this is more like it. So thanks,
I
gently.
apologize to the chatters. I can't see them.
Oh, that's okay. What I'll do, I'll present it. What I'll do is I'll pop the chat out and present it, and then you'll be able to see the chats as well. How about that?
Oh, great.
Give me a moment here. So present a window, and this one is it that one? Yep, that's the one. So boom, now you can see the chats, and we can go through them at the same time. So I'll just not let them
Thank you.
yeah, because there's times before when I like miss the chats altogether. So I'll just try to make sure that I keep up with them at least a little bit. So thanks for joining Gentleys and 1 C4. You're always good. By the way, the link to join is inside the description. I'll post it again right now just to be sure. The link to joining is inside the description. So give me a moment here. I'll post it again for anybody who wants to join. And right now we're talking about the shadow, the size of the shadow of an eclipse, basically, versus reality. I guess that's a good way to phrase it. So boom. So yeah, gently, but yeah, I don't mind. See Montreal. Thanks for posting the channel, gently. So now your channel is posted. See Montreal. So I know you're not, like you said, you weren't expecting this, so you're not trying to get followers. It sounds like you just want to involved in the subject, so we appreciate it. So my what I have to say to that, first of all, is this. I noticed that when the experiment was more difficult, like because I didn't even think of it myself. Like the sun is right there, you could just use a ball or something. Somebody in the chat that day pointed that out, so that was my lapse in critical thinking, I would say, or my lapse in just imagination. But somebody in the chat pointed out you could just use a ball or something, so I suggested that. But one thing I want to point out, I noticed that before we both thought of that, And when it was just an idea of, well, we don't have light sources that big, and it was an idea of getting a large light source and getting a small object, you didn't do it. But I noticed that when it came to, I could just bring a ball outside, you did it because you probably had a ball lying around. Like you didn't have to go buy your baseball. You like had a baseball, right?
Yep, I had one.
Yeah, so that tells me, it speaks to me of your effort. It speaks to me of your willingness to make changes. I remember I was talking to um, the Mies King, and I was telling him how, in my when I was coming up, I didn't really know. When I realized what I was doing with the out of body experience, I didn't know whether I would live or die. When I realized what was going on, but I still risked it to find out the truth. Just like how those scientists in that chamber, that man risked his life to test out that suit, and he had a close call. That cord popped off, and he lost pressure in it. If they wouldn't have put that pressure back in there really fast, he could have died. So yeah, he risked his life, and I did the same thing. He was willing to make changes. Like I drove 3 hours to go see the solar eclipse, so I could see it with my own eyes. I drove like 5, 8, 10 hours to go to this observatory so I can see the arm of the Milky Way myself. So these are things I've done, changes I've made in my life, risks I've taken. Whether like with the out of body experience, it was a valid risk. Now I know it's not. I mean, you're not going to die, but I didn't know that at the time. But I took that risk so I could, and I experienced meeting people after they died and things like that. So these are changes I was willing to make to test and find out truth. But in my observation, it wasn't enough for you to go and invest in some flashlights or get a little object to make that experiment happen. And you came back the next week and you still argued that same point, having not done the experiment. But now, when we came up with a way to do it very easily, I could just take a ball and go outside. You did it right away. So it lets me know that perhaps the effort stopped you from doing it before. And I would say that's what's going on right now as well. So you yourself said, you said it stays the same. Then another point you said is about the same. And then you said maybe I could take some measurements or something. So even you yourself identified there's some things you can do to where it's precise, to where you don't have to just guess. So I'm not going to do it for you. I'm finding that people, just like we was talking about the other day, it seemed like, why should I do it? Because you're the one who has the doubts. Like you were saying earlier, why don't they put Mark Sargent in the chamber and prove it to him? See, he's questioning. I already answered that potential. We spent $1,000 or $10,000 or $1 million making this chamber. We have things to do. We built it for purposes. Why should I take time out of my schedule?
Darryl,
I'm still making my point. Why should I
love you, man, but
yeah. I'm still making my point. Why should I take time out of my schedule?
You remind me of chemo.
Okay, no problem. Why should I take time out of my schedule to do this for you? Why don't you make your own chamber? So that's what I would say. To me, because I understand it, I can see that the shadow got smaller. If you don't see that it got smaller to you, and if that's sufficient to you, I'm fine with us agreeing to disagree. So I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. The point is, Darryl, look at the difference of the shadow. The moon is 1,500 miles across. It casts a shadow on the Earth, 70 miles. Mm-hmm. I did the observation that you asked me to do, and the shadow of the ball should have been like the pin of a pencil or something, according to your logic. Okay. That's all I'm saying. If you can't see that, sorry, dude.
Okay. Well, put it like this. To me, I'm clear. It's clear that you're wrong, right? But for the purpose of the people listening, and maybe so you can learn as well, why don't we do this? Would you illustrate for me how that's the case? Like, would you go ahead and illustrate for me or describe for me how exactly that's the case?
I just explained it to you according to your logic. I would be really interested in some of the other chat members that really have a lot of knowledge in this to hear what they think.
Okay, so C4, I think you're still here.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Okay, so C4, Eileen Coates, what do y'all say about that? And would you do me a favor and go ahead and present the question to them, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you could present the question to them and see what they say directly. So if y'all could listen in real fast and and hopefully some of y'all can come back from your work for a moment and type in. But go ahead and present your question.
Sure. My question is simple. How can an object 1,500 miles across cast a shadow of 70 miles? And like I said, I have no side here. I'm not for the red, I'm not for the blue, I'm for the truth.
Okay. So what do you say, Eileen? It seems like you're listening. You want to answer that? And I'm gonna show. Well, I can't present two different things, but y'all saw the video earlier. I'll show it again later. The experiment he's talking about. So Eileen is saying, well, you see her comments right there. What is your response? She can hear you when you talk.
Are you talking to me, Darryl?
Yeah, Montreal. So I'm presenting the comments so you can see them, and that's what she's saying. So what is your response to her?
Okay. Who are we talking about here?
So
Eileen. Okay.
there you go.
Right. I see it. Okay.
So Eileen, you're up first. He's reading your comments right now.
Wow, Eileen, that's pretty. I don't know what to say to that.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that we could both be correct in a holographic simulated universe. He's not sure what to say to that. I can certainly understand. That sounds like a totally different topic that requires a whole lot of other understandings. And I'm not against that. I'm not against that perspective. By the way, I have some experience that supports that. But we also still have a reality where a 12-inch ruler is a 12-inch ruler. So let's try to stick in this realm. We talked about a moon that's 1,500 miles wide and a shadow that's 70 miles wide. So let's go ahead and stick in this realm and keep it fair. So we're gonna move on. So look at her next comment at 207. Eileen says, "What's a mile? Who said it's 5,000 miles across? God or a human eye? You're both dealing with human invented info, which has nothing to do with reality." But that still wasn't his question. His question was based upon what I said. Matter of fact, let me just pull it up real fast. I'll pull up the size of the moon. And you're able to see this, right, Montreal? What I'm searching for is size
Yes,
of the
I
moon.
can. Yep.
So it says 1,079 mile radius. So that's just over 2,000 miles diameter. Do I have that right? Yes. So I was wrong by about 5,000. It's really about 2,000 miles diameter. But still, the question still remains. It's even worse, right? How can a 2,000 mile diameter thing make a shadow 70 miles wide? So it's even worse now.
Exactly.
It's even worse. So,
Yep.
so let's go to Gently's. Gently's, the moon's gravity bends extra light towards the Earth. His experiment did not account for extra light. What do you have to say to that, Montreal? Gently's comment right there.
What do you mean extra light?
All right. So what he's saying is, and let me I'll present myself really fast. No, I can't present my camera in the Hangout but what he's saying is like the moon is acting like a gravity lens where it's like making more light focus in. That's what it sounds like he's saying. So basically you didn't account for that gravity. So what do you have to say to that?
Moonlight, gravity? I don't see what that has to do with anything.
Okay, I would have to agree with him.
First of all, the question: which gravity?
Yeah.
If you want to go to gravity, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I would actually have to agree to him gently because if we talking about gravity, the ball has gravity too. I guess it doesn't have enough to bend light that way, but I don't think the moon has enough gravity to in itself account for a shadow that small. So I would have to back Montreal on that, guys. I would have to say it's not gravity that's doing that. At least my understanding of science doesn't support that, but I think that's a good idea. But I would have to back him up and say that it wouldn't be gravity in that case. Now, to his point, by the way, Montreal, they did use that to prove like relativity. They did, my understanding, again, I just looked at it, like I told you earlier, I'm an amateur scientist. So they did come along and see the light bending around the moon during one of the solar eclipses, and it helped prove some of Einstein's theories about relativity. So there is an effect of gravity bending around the moon, yes. But my understanding is, in other words, we can still get a smaller shadow without just that. So that doesn't account for it all on its own. So let's go to the next one here. I just did no gravity, black holes, or dark matter, only plasma. Info energy, yes, you're both right. There's 12-inch ruler unless more than one agree there is. But same gravity has never been proven. Okay, so it looks like they don't have an argument or an explanation for you as far as I'm seeing in Montreal.
Of course not.
So awesome. So I'm fine with us. If you're fine, you're confident that you proved your point, Montreal.
Well, I can't say I'm 100% confident, but I would like to see proof in any event. If you say that Einstein's theory of relativity was proven because you saw some light bending over, did you also see the time bending over? It's a whole kettle of fish, as they say.
Do you want to get on and answer that gently? He's talking about the light and the time, and so I think it's a decent question. So yeah, so I'm fine with agreeing to disagree and coolness. So we'll see if you want to come on, gently. That's right. I gently said he's working. He's just listening, so I don't think he'll come on. So cool, man. And what
I would be looking forward to talking with him in the future for sure.
Oh, awesome. So maybe y'all can have a discussion about gravity and light bending and stuff like that. And what I'll do, just for the people, so they can see again the video we was talking about, because I can't present more than one thing at a time. So I'll present your video one more time, and I wouldn't mind doing our closing arguments. I know we both only have so much time, and but it was good to come back and at least you did do an observation. I know you don't want to call it an experiment. You did do an observation based upon my suggestion, so I have to count you as another one that I still have to respect, even though, like I said, you didn't do it with the light and the marble, but still you did it with the parameters that I put forth, a ball in the sun. So I have to give you respect, sir. You did went out there and you backed up the talk, and you did it, and you recorded it, and there's the proof right there. You may not agree on the outcome, but boom, it's right there, and people are seeing it right there. So hey, respect to you.
Thank you, Darryl.
Yeah. So I gotta lump you in. Like I said, I respect Rob Ski, but we may not agree on the results of his. Oh, there's Gently there. We may not agree on the results of his boat experiment, but like I said, I respect him for the fact that he did the balloon. I think that was done accurately. I respect him for the fact that he did the what is it? The Earth, like it was a volleyball for the Earth, and like a like a baseball for the moon, and it showed the satellite perspective accurately. And now I have to say, I respect Stationary in Montreal for doing his observation here and showing his evidence on it. So respect. And there's Gently's there, and if y'all want to hash it out, I got some time. I don't know how much time you still want to have with Gently's on, but if y'all want to hash it out, I got some time to do it.
I got about 20 minutes that I can spend with Gently, sure.
Awesome. So 20 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I've got 20 minutes.
All right. So I'll go ahead and put on a timer for 20 minutes. And no present your argument first or anything like that. Just a 20-minute timer. And when it's like close to 20 minutes, I'll let us know, and we can give our closing arguments. And then we can head on out till next time. And I'll be here tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but I'll be here tomorrow. And even though it wasn't official, but Sean Hawkins and Station Number Montreal sort of agreed that it may be good for Saturday of next week for them to talk again on that second topic. So I'll plan for that. I'll be here Saturday of next week at 11:30 Central Time. Hopefully they both show up. And let me find my timer link here. Timer's here. Is that 20 minutes?
Refresh my memory on the second topic, please, Darryl.
The second topic was, I don't remember myself exactly off the top of my head. I have to go back and watch the video. I believe it was, I need to get more sleep. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. What was it? We was talking about the vacuum chamber. Then we were talking about, we were talking about whether the suit would be strong enough to actually work. You were saying, oh, look, they got those long johns. That won't really work. And that blue thing, that's thin. right? And he was like, no, that costs more than my car. Then he was like, well, we can come back and talk about, right? So the one next, if they both make it, next week we'll talk about, is that a valid suit? Is that thing just like the people who say the aluminum foil? That's the aluminum foil. That thing is put it's just on a sound stage somewhere that wouldn't really hold up in space. Or would that thing really hold up in space? Why would it really hold up in space? What's the evidence why it will hold up, or would it not hold up? And if both of y'all show up, that'll be the talk Saturday or next week at 11:30 a.m. Central Time, about 3 hours earlier than now. So boom.
I'll do my best and I'll do my research.
That was good. And both people have a week, and I'll make sure I remind Sean that I'll remind you sometime throughout the week as well. So cool. The 20-minute timer is going. Boom. Y'all can hash it out. What I want to talk about with the gravity and the light from the moon and the relativity and all that stuff.
I done a lot of talking. Let my buddy go on.
All right. Go ahead, Gentleys.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the moon's gravity bends light, but only by a very small percentage. What's happening is, as you're lifting your object up in the light, the shadow is getting washed out. The shadow's the same size, but it's getting washed out. What happens is, to put a defined edge on that, is only the slight variance of light that's coming around the moon gives you more of a definition. And of course, the scale of how far away the moon is from the Earth focuses the shadow. Because if you have a look at the shadow in your video, as you lift the thing up, the shadow that starts getting washed out, you haven't got a focal point on that. It's almost like focusing the lens of a camera. Eventually, as you move the objects towards the light, you'll get more of a defined focal point. And of course, as the gravitational lensing happens, it actually gives you a more defined edge. So you can get a similar effect, but you can't actually mimic exactly. Yeah, that you would expect to see time bend if you see light bend, and we do see time bend. Time dilation is how GPS satellites function, but it's also how electric current works. If you induce an electric current, that's exactly what you would expect to see. Yeah. What else was you saying?
With all due respect, I don't believe in time. Therefore, I do not believe in time dilation or time bending. Nobody has proven that to me.
You know, when we started the conversation, that isn't now. Mm-hmm. That isn't now, is it? That was before. So that is an effect of time. You know, if everything happened at the same time, well, me and you both be talking, everyone in the world be talking. No, there's a gap in between. There's a pause. That pause is time.
You're talking about the arrow of time.
Eh?
This is what you're talking about.
The arrow of time. No, I'm on about the passage of time.
Yes.
Well, time's linear.
Well, the arrow of time states that time cannot go backwards. So it's, yeah.
No, time cannot go backwards, but it can slow down.
Well, according to the mumbo-jumbo of Einstein, it can.
The mumbo-jumbo of Einstein, relativity predicted the slowing down of time. His field equations,
right. It also
equations tell you one thing, well, tell you two things. Tell you that space is flat, except for where there's a ruddy grey big planet, and then it's not. And so time has to follow the same path as light, and it will bend around there. Any light not caught in a gravitational well will not get around on an elliptical path or anything like that. So when it gets ejected from it, it'll be moving at a different rate.
There's no such thing as a gravitational...
Einstein literally told you time dilation.
It's a load of crap, my friend. I don't believe any of it.
Can you give me a reason why?
Sure. The bending of space-time. Are you serious? First of all, Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian gravity make absolutely no sense. They contradict each other. So you can't even agree on type of gravity, and then you start explaining things that hop into one theory and then hop out to the other theory. It makes absolutely no sense to any logical human being.
Can you tell me how relativity and Newtonian gravity don't work together? Because as far as my understanding is, the math is almost symmetrical.
Forget about math. Math is not reality.
Math is absolutely.
One moment. Let's not change the subject. Go ahead and answer his question. So answer how they don't work together.
It's very simple. Newtonian gravity is a pulling force. Two objects pull each other together. And Einsteinian gravity is the bending of space-time.
Okay.
Now, can you say that without laughing?
Yeah, okay. Newton at no point...
I can't.
Newton at no point described what the force was, only the effects of the force. Newton gave you the math. He did not give you the theory.
Another thing that Newton said was, do not associate me with gravity.
Yes, because it required
He
a
has a
force that
quote.
he could
You
not
can bring it
explain.
up. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah. He was recording a force that he couldn't explain. And his lack of explanation led into mysticism, like it was magic. Einstein came along and said, no, there's no magic, it's this.
No. The magic was,
there.
he was referring.
There's no
Sorry, gently. I have to correct you. The magic that Einstein refers to is the spooky action at a distance, referring to two particles quantumly linked. That's what he refers to.
I was referring to Newton, not Einstein. Plus, quantum entanglement wasn't actually on the list of priorities at the time of Einstein, at least the understanding of it. We can say safely in these days that we are into the age of the quantum supercomputer. We not only understand it, we use it, we build machines from it. We have a book by a guy called Feynman, and it's known as QED. It represents the pinnacle of human knowledge.
I'm not going against the quantum physics, gently. I'm not going. I agree with it.
Yeah, okay. Quantum physics has all the same laws and all the same constants.
Were we not talking about the difference between Newtonian and Einsteinian gravity?
Well, yes. There is no difference between the two.
So let's keep on subject, and if we settle this, we can move on.
Okay.
How does that make sense to you, gently?
How does what? Sorry, clarify the question.
How does Newtonian and Einsteinian gravity make sense to you? I'm sure you're a more learned person than I am. I believe you have a degree, correct?
Incorrect. No, I don't. See,
sorry, I was thinking about somebody else.
No. See, we're discussing math, and you're discussing math with a guy that's got dyscalculia and cannot do math. But I still know it well enough to describe what it is that we're talking about. And what was your question? Because I forgot what you said.
My question is the difference between Newtonian and Einsteinian gravity. That they don't jive with each other. One has to be wrong, one has to be right.
I fail to see why. They're both the universal constants.
One is a force and one is a bending of space-time.
No. One isn't a force and one's bending of space. One is bending of space-time, correct. The other one isn't a force. You don't measure gravity, you measure the action of gravity. So anything caught within a gravitational
why don't we do this, guys, if
well,
I may interrupt? So, like, I hear both of y'all saying, basically, this is the way it is, and then the other one is saying, no, this is the way it is. And then we're saying, no, this is the way it is. What evidence do y'all have to support your position? So, what evidence do you have, Montreal, whether it's an experiment you did or a book or a reference to a scientist that says the same thing? And what do you have, gently, as far as evidence? Because we could sit here going back and forth, no, you're wrong, this is right, back and forth, but it doesn't prove anything. So, what evidence do y'all have to support y'all understanding of the two different type of gravities or what have you?
Simple,
Okay.
if I may.
Go ahead, Montreal, you can go first.
It's the writings of the people themselves.
Okay, so what's a reference to one of those?
Half a brain.
So what's the reference now? What's the reference? So I'm not saying just tell us.
Look, I don't have references there. I don't have reference, but we're all familiar with the two theories, correct? Without going into references.
I mean, I'm not familiar with it enough to make conclusions like you're making.
Darryl, you're a self-proclaimed scientist. You must know this. Come on.
Well, let me let you know how that works, sir. Different scientists have different specialties. So just because someone is a scientist doesn't mean that they know every single detail of every single subject. So you can be a medical doctor, but that don't mean that you can go build a rocket just because you're a scientist.
But can we agree on these two things? Can we just agree on these two?
I'm saying we can't, obviously. Obviously we can't because y'all are both saying different things. So obviously you can't. Me, myself, I don't have enough knowledge of either of them to really say. So, I mean, so that's why I'm asking, what evidence do y'all have or what references do you have? Perhaps we can come back another time. Perhaps we could, maybe we can make it another day and y'all can come with y'all. Because again, we could sit here for 5 hours and one of y'all saying I'm right, one of y'all saying I'm wrong. It doesn't prove that either y'all is right or wrong. It just, that's what you're saying. So
I think I can come to some agreements with Gently.
okay, what
Well,
agreement
go
do
on
you
then.
think y'all could come to?
Let's try.
Okay.
Gently, do you agree that Newtonian gravity is a pulling force, two objects pulling each other?
No, it's not pulling. It never has been a pulling force, no.
You're serious?
No, it's never been a pulling force.
Gravity has never been a pulling force.
No,
Two
anything.
objects attract, even the explanation of it is two objects attracting each other.
Yes, but when you're applying which force is required to do that, you don't necessarily need a force.
Well, according to Mr. Mooser, gravity is a force, is not a force, but you can think of it as a force.
Exactly.
That's one of your guys.
Yeah, well,
I mean, this is comical, guys. Come on. This is comical.
to quote him again.
I mean, I
gravity-
dropped out of high school. I don't even have high school education. And I could understand that this is silly. This is stupid.
I mean, I would actually have to agree with him, gently. I mean, my general understanding of is that, like, with the Cavendish experiment, like, two masses attract each other. So, I mean, I can understand his point there. You know, generally we describe it as, like, the Earth attracting things towards it, like, towards the center of gravity. So, yeah, I can see his point there.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to avoid is the gotcha moment of, aha, you said it's this specifically. I'm not being, the two are moving towards each other. That I concur. I cannot give you the finite force involved in doing so. So if he wants to say two things are moving towards each other, yeah, I completely concur. But before that, I don't concur because it's not about a force attracting things.
And by the way, thank you for joining 1-1. Is that one Eileen that just joined?
Yeah, it sure is. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome. Welcome.
Awesome. I always listen to your show, but I've never participated. And so you've invited me in. I didn't know I could.
Yes, thank you for joining. Yes, everybody's welcome. We appreciate you joining. And right now, these two are discussing basically Newtonian gravity versus relativity, as I understand. And Gently was just saying how two things do come together, but there's not really a force that you could identify. Is that correct, Gently?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Can I weigh in on that?
Certainly, do your thing.
Okay, so first of all, I'm more in agreement with Montreal's scientific outlook after about 40 years of studying quantum physics.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you guys why.
40 years. Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty old.
So am I. We're good.
I'm older than you, Darryl. I can see you. So, okay. So basically, I'm not going to make this long. I'm going to do the Reader's Digest, condensed version of my opinion.
Okay.
I looked into Einstein's spooky science at a distance. I wanted to know what part of relativity and Newtonian physics he couldn't resolve. Okay. So, in my opinion, you have to drop Newtonian physics and go straight into what are the problems with relativity. And when you get into retrocausality, which I presume everybody listening to this channel understands what that term means, right?
You might as well
Good one.
elaborate.
Haha.
Well, time going in the opposite direction, basically.
Exactly. So now we know that time is probably circular and it's not linear. It doesn't go only forward.
Okay.
We know through experiments of retrocausality, even though they're kind of boring experiments where they'd put like a computer ticker in a Faraday box so that nothing could interfere with it energetically. And then they would go back with people and try to change the left-right ticking of this counter in a box. They found that they could change the probability of more lefts or more right ticks in the future. So that's kind of like your proof of retrocausality. They're very old experiments.
Do you have a link to that experiment? That sounds amazing. Is
Oh,
this a name of it or something like that?
It's very old. So the best way to find it would be to pick up a copy of Lynn McTaggart's The Field.
Okay.
And she's an American journalist based in England who basically spent the whole book referencing the actual experiments that prove retrocausality, and entanglement. Now, entanglement's quite different to time moving backwards. So anyway, the quantum idea now, which could be totally wrong tomorrow, is that all time is happening at once. And then, in 10 years, that theory will be disproven and we'll move on to something even more amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I never hold on to theories as if they're true, which is why I sounded so weird in the early comments going, there is no 12-inch ruler unless at least two people agree on what an inch is.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And tomorrow it changes, and then 100 years it changes, 1,000 years it changes, because we never ever have a full grip on reality. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we never will. I don't know that we'll ever resolve reality here, but it's fun to try. But getting back to you guys on the Newtonian physics, that's got to go, because gravity only applies to small objects on Earth. When you get out into the cosmos, if you believe that the cosmos is structured the way they say it is, with planets and stars and suns that are all round, gravity doesn't work. So particle science theoretically invented dark matter. And I bet Montreal knows about this, because just listening to you, it sounds like you understand that dark matter is a theory to make gravity work with large objects at large distances.
Yes, ma'am. When they couldn't explain the Newtonian, they came up with this excuse me.
Yes.
You're fine.
So they invented dark matter to say that we can't see 95% of the universe in order to get the 5% that we can see to stay up.
Okay.
And not crash into each other or not collapse. So I'm like, whoa, there's something wrong with particle physics if it has to remain in the domain of theory only. And the same is true with black holes. Black holes were invented as a theory to explain all of this, entanglement, retrocausality, how planets stay up, how they spin, if they do.
Now let me ask you
Right.
this: like you sound very, very learned in these subjects, and you said you studied them for 40 years. Do you have like a physics degree or something like that, or just from your independent studies that you develop your understanding?
Well, my background is psychology degree and journalism degree, and I was a mainstream media journalist, and I left. I'm retired. But the quantum science that I studied was 40 years of just reading every quantum science article, theory, study, book that I could come across. It's more of a personal passion.
Okay.
So the only way I can support what I'm saying is if you watch David LaPointe's primer fields. He does in the lab, it's right on YouTube, and he demonstrates what a Tesla plasma universe looks like. It dumps gravity, it dumps black matter, and it dumps black holes.
David LaPointe.
David LaPointe's primer field demonstrates a toroidal plasmoid in the lab. Now, he's disappeared. Those videos are like 6 years old, and he's just not making any more.
Okay.
And he never completed the series. So then if you go to Thunderbolt's project on YouTube,
Okay.
those are professional scientists who have dumped Newtonian physics, who have dumped Einstein completely and relativity, and they're only working with Tesla plasma electromagnetism.
And it's called Thunderbolt what?
It's called Thunderbolt's Project, one word, on
Okay.
YouTube. Most of them are from England. Wal Thornhill, I think he's English. I don't know, I could be wrong. And this group of scientists have thrown out the standard model. They've thrown out particle physics completely. And they're looking at matter from the point of information held in an electromagnetic field.
Awesome. So that's
And if you speed it up fast enough, it becomes a particle. And if you slow it down, it becomes plasma, it becomes light. It becomes all kinds of material substance, depending on how fast the speed of the current is. And they're showing that our universe is being held together with what they call Birkeland currents.
okay.
Now, this is
Well,
the
let's
new
stop here. Let's give him a chance to respond. That was a lot of information. So both of y'all, what do y'all have to say to that? That sounds pretty in depth so far. So she's breaking down. Basically, she's throwing out Newtonian gravity, looking at the larger scale, and it seems to agree with Montreal. What do y'all have to say about that?
I don't know what Montreal's saying about that. I fundamentally disagree because if I were to start building a bridge, I could decipher the load of the bridge through
And that's the
relativity.
20-minute mark,
All
by the
I
way.
could do.
Hold on, let me pause this. This thing is loud in my ear. Hold up. So, what do you say, Montreal? That's for 20 minutes. You want to keep going, or you want to go ahead and take your break and come back another time? What you want to do?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hi to One on One. What a breath of fresh air you are. Please do not make this your last online thing.
I agree.
I'm new to this too. It's my third debate, thanks to Darryl. So please come back. We need your brain. We need your knowledge.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. I
I have
agree.
a channel called One Eileen Colts, but it's a spiritual channel. It's not a quantum channel, but I put quantum information into spirituality. But it's way out there. It's more fringe than you guys.
That's where Darryl's at. So you guys have something in common.
Yes, we do. I deal with
Daryl
it.
found me. He commented on one of my videos, and so I found him, and I've been listening in now for like a month.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll have to look into more of your videos, and maybe we can get on and talk about out-of-body experiences and universal experiences I've had where I can relate to the one sort of field perspective of the universe.
Oh, we definitely have to talk about that, guys, because I had a near-death experience. I was raised in Cairo with an oil family, and I died at 17, was resuscitated, and that's kind of when my life trajectory changed into like world religions and quantum science. That's all I would read. And now, finally, there are people to talk about with this stuff because like in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't very popular.
Well, I'll be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time. I was saying I didn't have a topic for tomorrow, so we could talk about that. And what were you saying, Gently? You were saying you fundamentally agree because, and I understand what Gently's saying, by the way. Like we were talking about the size of the shadow on the Earth. So that's a local phenomenon. It's measurable. It's predictable. Just like the being able to
Totally.
measure
Totally
a
agree with you,
bridge.
Gently.
Yeah. So
All of that stuff works in gravity. Newton's gravity works on Earth. As soon as you get off of Earth, it's where it falls apart. It really does work on Earth. And since most of us are on Earth, we just assume that everything that we experience on Earth scientifically is going to apply to the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe.
Yeah, at no point did I suggest it worked anywhere other than locally. I mean, what I was suggesting about bending light is a local thing to the moon rather than just a solar event.
Totally
I understand that it is local, but if I were to be building a bridge, I would not calculate relativity. I would just calculate Newton because it'd be far easier and give me the same result locally, which is where I am.
Yeah, totally get it. That's where the difference in the conversation is whether we're talking locally or we're talking universally.
So to Gently's
And
comment,
it's pretty crazy out there.
So-
when you try to apply Earth science to the universe, it just doesn't work.
but to Gently's comment though, doesn't that suggest that they are? I don't remember the exact word you used, Gently, but then you say they're parallel or side by side because we can measure a bridge here and it works. And there's also clearly an energetic thing going on if you increase or decrease the frequency. So doesn't that support his point that they're both going on simultaneously? Maybe there's different aspects of the same thing or the same different things from different scales, or because they both are going on. I mean, we could both, in the world that they're standing on the solid floor, they're measuring these fields and seeing the differences, right? So, but they're still standing on the solid floor while they're doing it. So, it seems like they're both going on simultaneously. Because the Earth is in the universe, so it's within that whole dark energy theoretical field, right? So what do you have to say?
Montreal, you want to take that one?
I think he's gone, actually.
You still here, Montreal? Or?
I'm here. I was on mute, sorry.
So she passed that
What
to
was
you.
the
You
question
want to?
again?
So the question was going towards Gently's point. I believe he was saying that they're not contradictory. They both, they could be side by side or parallel, and that's supported by the very fact that we're here on the Earth and we can measure the aerodynamic lift of a wing and build a plane and carry people around to the other side of the planet. And the Earth is within a universe. I mean, we could talk about larger scales, but the Earth exists within the solar system, which exists within the galaxy. So obviously, these two things are going on in tandem. So at the same time that those scientists were in modulating the frequencies and seeing these different modulations of matter, they were standing on the solid floor looking at it, and so on and so forth. So it seems to be in tandem when we look at it practically. So what do you have to say about that? Why can't it be this and that? Why does it have to be this or that? Why can't it be this and that?
because it doesn't make sense. One superseded the other. You can't have two things. It doesn't make sense.
Maybe I'm not explaining myself clearly. In other words, like to Gently's point, even though they can measure space and they can see all of this dark matter and things don't work, and they have those what do they call particles, Bindu particles or Bindu frequencies, we can still measure a bridge and it works. We can still weigh a tomato and it works when we ring it up. I mean, these things still work. So it's not like we're talking about relativity and suddenly we can't establish the exact weight of the exact psi at the top of a mountain. For instance, and I'll mute you briefly one because we have some background noise. But just keep in mind, if you speak, you're muted until you unmute yourself. So that's not to say that we can't measure the exact psi at the top of a mountain. I mean, when you say supersedes as if it doesn't work anymore, but they both work. I mean, she showed us experiments where it's working with the different frequencies and all. I'll have to look at it and explain it in more detail, but obviously matter is not as solid as we think and time is not as linear as we think. But at the same time, we're still driving our cars that's a combustion engine and it still works. We're still
I get exactly what you guys are saying. It's because if you just think about a particle is not solid, we already know that, right? Yes. But now think of it as information in light. So if you're looking at your bridge and you're looking at your car and you're looking at your dog and a chair, and you're looking at it as information carried in light and plasma,
the Higgs boson particle gives all other particles mass. So technically, you would end up with mass from a particle. So you're saying that they're not actually existent as mass. They are. As long as
you saying mass? Around. Yeah, not math. Mass, right?
Yeah, mass, M-A-S-S. Yeah, mass exists with a Higgs boson field, yeah? So that's a particle that forces other particles
the particle science from CERN is completely off. Completely off. I can't talk about the Higgs boson particle because it's not based on the reality of Tesla's plasma science, which is where science is going now.
Well, you say the reality of Tesla's plasma, but you can't actually identify in the plasma universe the source of the electric.
Well, you can. That's where it gets kind of the spooky science of Einstein. Because then what? Is it God?
Can you demonstrate?
Is it source energy? Yeah, just watch the plasma primer fields on YouTube, and you'll see how toroidal fields are created that have natural.
Yeah. No, I've got no problem with the physics of plasma. What I've got the problem with is if you use an electric current to generate a star. Okay, that's one thing. But you have neutrinos coming from that star. Okay, now they're matter. So
no, they're not. So
you've got no, they're matter. So you've got this source of.
Well, one moment. It's still not going to do to just say this is that. So obviously there's a conflict on this point. So what evidence do y'all have to support this point? Like, what are y'all basing this on?
Neutrinos go through everything. They go through buildings. They go through people. They're an energy that comes from the sun, and they are not.
Yes, they do. But you're correct. They do travel through everything, but they do interact with matter, and that's the reason why they're considered as matter, especially the heavy one. I think it's the tau.
Particle science,
but they change. Right. See, we expect to see three of them coming from a hydrogen reaction, nuclear reaction, and we actually do see the three of them, but we see two of them more predominantly than the others.
That's particle science.
What's happening is they're known as changing flavour, and this is due to reaction against matter that they come into contact with. So that's the current understanding.
No, it's not.
So what you have?
I beg to disagree nicely, and they do not come into contact with matter. They go right through it. They fly right through the whole
This is correct.
So they're not.
This is correct, but the heavier ones interact with the matter, and that's the reason why they are considered as matter. You are totally correct. They move through everything. We can measure them with, there's several things going on measuring. There was actually two in Japan. One's right next to a nuclear power plant measuring the neutrinos coming from the power plant during that reaction as well. But the problem, we'll go back to the point anyway. If you've got this constant stream of electric going into the sun, and the sun is causing matter to happen, then what you've got is a net loss on the system of energy. So I want to know what replaces the energy, because we all know that E equals mc squared, energy is mass. So the amount of energy it takes to create mass is then lost to the energy field. So can
E
you
equals
explain the
mc
net?
squared does not work in plasma science. You're still going back to relativity and Einstein, and it's all been replaced through plasma science, the science of light, and the information in the light that's carried. For instance, the DNA in your body is communicating with other information to create particles that make up a human body, but the DNA in a fish is communicating with other information that makes up the body of a fish. That's what plasma science is all about. It's about the information, and it's how it's carried to things. That's
I
why
have
it's
absolutely no idea what you just said there. So what evidence can you say that my DNA is communicating with anything else?
because you're here on the show, you exist and you're talking, so therefore
You're breaking up.
you actually do exist.
We can't. Whatever you did to your sound just now, you got really, really low right there. 1-1.
Oh, I don't know, it's probably my Wi-Fi.
Um,
It's because you're
maybe you could try calling right back in because we can't understand you right now. Like maybe you could just disconnect and call right back, and then we can hear you again.
will do.
So we'll let her get right back so we can hear what she's saying.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens. It happens to me a lot, actually.
Really?
Yeah, that connection there.
I don't think she's disconnected yet, though. You might have to literally disconnect and then reconnect. I'll link the channel in the chat again, by the way. If you're on the phone, do you know that you can dial in too? Maybe that'll help as well. You're gonna disconnect Eileen and try to connect back?
I'm really glad we have a new member.
Yeah.
She's really above my pay grade, I'll tell you that.
Uh-oh. And she's obviously very red.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there she is. She'll be coming right back. Let me see if I can post the dial in as well.
Yeah, I did some digging around the EU, PU universe not too long back, actually. There was a guy on Jose's channel. I tried a little bit of a debate with him.
Okay, what was it about?
They raised some... Oh, there you go, sorry.
What was the debate about?
Oh, about the electronic universe, the plasma universe. It seems everyone is fairly well read.
Awesome.
The problem is they're reading the wrong load of science.
There she is right there.
Hey, yes, she is.
Yeah, I had to restart my whole phone.
Aha.
Energetically, this conversation is so high vibe, you guys. It knocked out my whole phone. And you know, it's a Samsung S10 Plus, so it's a pretty good phone.
It's the best phone currently on the market.
It sounds like we're doing an ad. I'm not doing an ad.
Neither am I, but that's going to be my next phone, I think.
Yeah, it is the I do
Well,
all my YouTube.
Actually, the Note. The Note.
Yeah, I got the Note. I do all my YouTube channel production on my phone. I don't really use my laptop for that, so. But anyway, you guys knocked my phone out, so. You know what? Can I say, would you guys go to a channel called Theoria? Theor.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Apophysis.
The guy with the tattoos.
Yeah, Apophasis. He is crazy, insanely genius, and he talks all about and he demonstrates plasma science versus particle science. He's amazing.
Yeah, I saw this guy. He's amazing.
He's I can't even like think the way the guy thinks, you know?
One-on-one, I have a question for you since you know this stuff. He claims that a light does not emit energy. You see that part?
It doesn't. A light in plasma, Tesla plasma science, a light does not emit an energy. It moves through the cosmic soup, the ether, and the pressure moving through something creates the energy that's perceived as light. That's all I can say.
My jaw was on the floor listening to this guy.
Yeah. And of course I had to look it up. After he said it, I was like, no way. And then I looked it up and it does hold. It holds with plasma science. Basically, plasma science is everything is light. You are light. The chair is light. Everything is light. And in the light is information that tells it what to be. A chair, a dog, a person, a star, a planet.
Wow, this is heavy duty stuff. You're one step ahead of us one-on-one.
Nope.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm not ahead of you guys at all. I've just been insanely.
Oh, yeah.
I could read up to 8 hours a day on quantum physics. I mean, I had a unique obsession with it since the age of 12. And then my NDE was at 17, though. So I can't say the NDE caused it.
Explain us the plasma theory briefly for dummies.
Well, I will try, but I'm in the same category as you guys. I'm in the plasma for dummies category.
I seriously doubt that.
No, it's true, because everything I say could be wrong. Everything I say right now could change in a year, a week, 100 years, you know, because we don't really know what we're dealing with. So what we do is we try to conceptualize what we're dealing with into some form of truth. And that truth just keeps changing and changing and changing. So plasma science today, basically states that all is light. Everything is light. It's even biblical. I mean, if you want to go there, I went to a Jesuit university, so I had to study the Bible. But you'll like that, Darryl, because you mention a lot of biblical things too, don't you?
Oh yeah, I recognize that as a document that's has some truth in it. It comes from some historical events.
Yeah, me too. That's how I view it too, very objectively. Everything is light, and even the neutrinos are light. Even your body is light. Even your thoughts are light. There's light. There's nothing right now in our reality paradigm that is not made up of light. But the question is, what kind of light? How fast does it move? And what is it moving through? How does it become different things? How does light become different objects that are matter?
That's a good question. So, do you not have the answer for that? Because I don't.
Well, I'll tell you.
The thing is, QED.
Well, one moment. Well, we asked her a question. Let's give her a chance to answer. You said, do you have the answer to that? How light becomes matter?
Well, I think plasma scientists, I've mentioned them all to you. The Apophysis, Thunderbolts Project, David LaPointe, Wal Thornhill. They're trying to determine what creates the plasma. Where do the Birkeland currents come from? Where do toroidal fields come from? But it's a whole new area of science that has nothing to do with Newtonian or Einstein physics.
But it sounds like you're saying they don't really know yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think they know.
Okay.
I mean, if they did know, would they say light comes from God? Probably, because that's the end-all be-all answer. If you can't find an answer, give it to God. Say God creates all the light. Okay,
gently. So she answered. She said they don't know yet. So what's your response to that?
Well, okay. So my response to that is, Feynman actually gave us the rectified QED. It's a book you can go and buy if you want and download it online.
Say it again.
Sorry. Mic check, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Where did you leave off?
Where's that book? What's the name of the book? The title of the book?
QED, capital letters.
Just QED.
Quantum electrodynamics. Yeah,
Okay.
the refined edition of quantum electrodynamics. And in that, it thoroughly describes the relationship between light and matter in a mathematical formula, easy to understand. Well, when I say easy to understand, it is in Feynman's book. When you run the math, well, you're running field equations, and those are just impossible for like 90% of the human race. But we know we can mathematically map out exactly what we're going to see with regard to energy versus matter. So we don't need an extra theory of something else instead that goes completely against it. I mean,
that's the problem. Montreal said this way earlier in the show here. This is not about math. Math is a human system to quantify in order to understand something. And every time something was...
I've got to stop you there. The units of measure are arbitrary. So it doesn't matter what you call them. No, math is not arbitrary.
It is.
It's a description it's a description. So if you had a sausage in one hand and a sausage in the other, how many sausages have you got? Math describes that. You don't need it because you can stand there and see that you've got two sausages in your hand. You know you have. But you can write it down as well. You can relate to
another person. May I have this one, please, one-on-one? May I answer him?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, do you sure? Are you finished your point, though, Gently? Let him finish, though. Let him finish. Are you finished your point, Gently?
I've got derailed. My thought chain's gone completely now.
Okay, so let's try to let people finish their points. I'll try to let everybody talk. So go ahead, Montreal. Maybe he'll remember when he replies back.
Okay. Sorry if I cut you off there. But speaking of a math problem,
go on.
If I have 3 ice creams,
yes.
Can you take 5 ice creams away from me?
Yes.
How?
Because I only need to
I only have 3.
Yes. I wait a period.
But you see, in reality...
Fucking hell, dude. Do you let me answer or not? Do you want the answer? Right. If I wait a period of time until you have the extra, I will take them from you then. Gives you the 4th dimension of you can't give them me right now, but wait a period of time, then you can. So I can take them from you, just not instantaneously, but over a period of time. Follow me?
Not really, because how about if I never get the other 2? How about if I always have 3?
Well, then...
See, in reality...
Yes, that would violate the law of math. You see what I'm saying? See, so there are laws in math, okay? They're established laws. They cannot be broken. You're saying to me, how come I can't break the laws of physics? And I'm saying to you, the laws of physics can't be broken. I know they can't.
No, I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying to you, math does not describe reality.
No, I could never take 5 from you if there were never 5. So doing the equation in the first place would be wrong equation. Do you follow me? You can't
do it. But in math, you can't do this equation. You can say...
So let me see if I can make sure I clarify this. So if I understand him properly, he's going to the equation like, let's say you have 0 minus 5. We know in math that's -5, right? And you use the example of
if I have negative ice creams.
Exactly. So he's like, I have 1 sausage in this hand, I have 1 sausage in that hand, I know I have 2. But if I don't have any sausages in my hands, how do I get negative sausages?
See, the trick here, Gently, is use your brain. Don't go by what people tell you. Use your brain. Simple.
Well, I'm using my brain, dude. Let me use my voice. Right?
Okay, so let's let him respond.
You get the negative sausages by having the sausages in your hand in the first place. Then you have 1. Yeah? When you throw that sausage away, then you have none. If your starting point was from the sausage, then you can get negative sausage. If the sausage never existed, you would never get negative sausage. Ergo, you'd be breaking the laws of physics to throw a sausage away you didn't have.
Okay.
The math is solid.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Well, let me see if I could chime in here on this one. So, because I understand your point. I actually understand their point as well in this one. Because if we're talking about math, you can have 0. You don't start with a number, and you just go negative. So like you have a blank page, you write 0, the numbers wherever there. So I can understand what they mean. Like, you don't have to without doing a given of numbers being there. You could just start with 0 and go to a negative. So, but to Gently's point, let's look at sausages as mass. Let's say a sausage weighs 1 pound, and the other sausage weighs 1 pound. If you don't have any sausages, I might not be able to take a sausage from you. But let's say you're standing on a scale, right? You're standing on a scale, and let's say you weigh 100 pounds. And let's say I put a pound sausage in one hand and I put a pound sausage in the other hand. How much does that person weigh now?
Exactly, themselves plus 2 sausages.
Right, 102 pounds. But let's say we're going the other way and we say he don't have any sausages, no sausages. But let's say I cut 1 pound of flesh from one side of his body and cut another pound of flesh from the other body. Now that person is negative their weight compared to their starting point. So if we just look at the mass itself rather than the particular object, Gently's argument does work even in the real world. Because you may not have sausage, but you're a certain amount of matter, and I could deduct.
That's bending the goalpost.
Well, I remember I rephrased it myself. I said, let me just
Nice
start
try,
again.
but
So I mean, what do you look at? Whether you want to accept it or not? If I have a human standing there, that human is there. There's a certain amount of matter is there. That's 0. That's the starting point. And I can add 2 sausages. So now I have 2 sausages when I had none. I weigh more when I weigh than I did. Or I can subtract matter from myself. I could even cut off a piece of flesh, and now that person has negative. They're negative compared to their normal weight from that 0 starting point. So you might not accept it, but that is how it can work in the real world as well.
Let me try
But
another
one
way.
moment before we go on again, let's see what 1-1 has to say about it. So everybody will have a say on this particular topic. So you had something to say on it, 1-1. What was yours on that? So you were talking about taking the sausage away versus not, starting with 0 in math versus starting with 0 in real life. What did you have to say about that?
First of all, thank you, because you're a great moderator.
Thank
Most
you.
people don't moderate that evenly. You should be doing the presidential debates.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so in my world, in my paradigm, Montreal is completely correct. I know I'm not saying that's better or smarter or anything. I'm just saying that's how I think based on plasma science, electromagnetic universe. And the reason being is if you put 2 sausages on the table, let's take the human away from it. Math says that you can take 5 sausages away from that and wind up with -3 sausages. In reality, in the paradigm that we live in, you cannot do that. Anyone who walks up to that table can at most take 1 sausage off the table, half a sausage, 1.5, or 2. But no physical being can take away more than 2 sausages off that table ever. And the problem with math is that it's used in the mainstream science and Einstein science and Newtonian and Kepler science and Copernican science, going all the way back to time from when it was supposedly invented in either China or the Middle East. Math limits the understanding of the paradigm of reality because everything that's proposed must have a concurrent mathematical equation to prove it and say, this is real, because we can force it into a mathematical equation. But in terms of reality, paradigm, what really is real, math has nothing to do with it.
You're misunderstanding the point of math fundamentally, okay? You have an equal amount of negative numbers as you do positive numbers. That means that you've always got an equal of 0. Do you understand that? So it doesn't matter if you start from negatives or positives, there's always an equal of 0, because that's the center point of negative and positive numbers.
Restroom real fast.
To have a 0 gives you the reference frame to have the math within. You start from 0. Just because you cannot physically remove a sausage from a table doesn't mean to say that time can't pass by and 2 sausages be there.
I think math is handy for counting toes and counting sausages. I don't think, again, in the quantum world, it just doesn't hold.
Well,
it disappears.
It
It's the
does.
spooky science that Einstein always said that there are so many things going on out there that cannot be explained mathematically. That's according to Einstein's own words.
Yeah, but Einstein was knocking on a bit when he said it. And also, this is how long after? Yeah, math has progressed. People have progressed. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants. Now, I'm shit at math, but I know people that are good at math, and they take their basis off the people before them. You've got people who have written, you've got QED. I don't understand why you need anything else. I don't understand rejecting math or imaginary states of matter. It's ridiculous.
Well, basically, gently, what you're saying is we know everything. We figured out all the science, so don't try to challenge it. Don't
Back, by
look
the way.
further.
That's pretty much what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, what
Well,
we
then
don't know.
science is over. We're done. We're done.
No, no, no,
Science is
no,
over.
no, 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 no. You're missing the point. What we don't know is dark energy, dark matter, and a unification theory. And with those three things, then I will stand there, look in your face, and tell you straight, I know everything, and it will be a fact.
Okay, well, I will tell you, I know nothing, and there are no facts. That's it. We come from two totally different philosophical paradigms of scientific approach.
What about
The
this, guys?
smartest thing I heard all day.
What about this, guys? I was thinking about a way that we can make this more tangible, right? And this is one thing that came to mind, and perhaps we could all weigh in on this. The numbers that we talk about, they're theoretical, but we do observe that we can make very real world effects by utilizing it. For instance, when people make airplanes, when people make rockets, they utilize math. And like for instance, there was a SpaceX launch recently, and no doubt when they designed those rockets and when they planned out that launch to the second, when it was depositing satellites and landing rockets, definitely they had to use some negative numbers up in there. Even if it was just the downturn from apogee of the parabolic orbit. All of these things have to do with negative numbers. So, and they utilize these negative numbers to make calculations, and the rocketry is there. It works. The satellite delivery is there. It works in the real world. It's delivered at the time they predict or calculate or design based upon using numbers. So even when you look at like solar eclipses, those things are designed and calculated using those numbers, and they happen at the exact time and place and location. So what do we have to say about the fact that these numbers, like to Gently's point, I mean, math is used to calculate things and make things in the world, and I mean, we wouldn't be able to fly on airplanes if people wasn't using those negative numbers and calculating things and calculating lift and gravity and drag, and drag is a negative force on an airplane. So, for instance, what do we have to say about that? The fact that this math is utilized in the real world to make real world things, and that is predictable and calculatable, and what do we say?
Well, I think in the real world, if I was presented with the problem, I need to take 3 sausages and I only have 2. Okay. Then I probably wouldn't be looking to do the math to -5 because there would be a law in place, and that law would be I can only take away -2. Now, given the imposition of that law, I wouldn't make that equation. You can only start making equations following the laws of physics. So if you can observe it and you know there is a law in place, you don't do that math against it. It's insane.
Okay, who do you have to say, 1-1?
Okay, I just mute myself in case my dogs bark or something.
Thank you.
I can't say anything because what I'm talking about is quantum, and it's not in the material, gravity-based Newtonian Einstein world. So I can't really go further. I can't really talk about it more than I already have. I think, like I've said, everything that I have to share. So I'd be better off now going in the chat and just chatting with people.
Awesome. What do you have to say, Montreal?
I have to say that one-on-one was very enlightening, very smart, and I hope we hear more from her.
Awesome. Perhaps is a good.
Thank you so much, all you guys. Thank you so much. It was so much fun coming on and talking to smart people who care about this kind of information. It was really amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd just like to apologise if I come off anyway condescending. I get told to do that a lot, and I probably quite well do. But there's nothing intentional towards you, rather than what we are discussing.
Yeah, I totally don't feel you're being condescending because I just spent 23 years in England and married an Englishman, and chances are you're English. I can tell by your accent. Am I right, or are you from like Australia, Canada, New Zealand?
No, I'm English. Right from the Midlands.
Oh my God, I lived in the Midlands, Northamptonshire, for decades. But I got to tell you, I just missed the sun, so I'm back home now. I'm back in America with the sunshine.
I won't hold that against you.
Well, awesome. Well, awesome, guys. It seems like this is a good place to go ahead and stop, and we appreciate you, Montreal, for staying on a bit longer. My name is Darryl Lee Berry Jr. with the Realizing the Shape show. So I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time, talking about out-of-body experiences and universal perspectives. So if you can show up 1-1, that'll be awesome, Eileen. But if not, I'll still be there just in case, in hopes that you show up. And
Yeah, I'm going to try to show up
awesome.
at 2 because I'd love to talk to you about. I watched my resuscitation from the ceiling of the room where I was resuscitated, and I never got out of the room. So I'd love to talk to you about that because that was just like an OBE, only
Awesome.
my body wasn't breathing. I was flatlined.
Sounds good. Well, I have years of experience and study around that, and so we was talking about Montreal. That is my specialty when we talk about out-of-body experience and stuff. So I
Cool.
may not be able to build a rocket, but you want to talk about different dimensions, I could touch you there. And
Awesome.
and next Saturday I'll be here. I'll be looking for you, Montreal and Sean Hawkins. I'll just remind y'all. Hopefully y'all can show up 11:30 p.m. Central Time next Saturday, and we could talk about whether the suit actually is a valid suit that they're going to space with. And Gently's, of course, you know you're welcome all the time. Maybe we can make a day for you as well.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds cool. Sounds cool.
so thank y'all for joining, everybody. We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you all.
Take care, though.
All right, now, y'all be cool.
Bye.